I planned every single detail of that trip. 7 days, 14 people. One beach house in the Outer Banks that I found, researched, compared with 11 other options, and finally booked with my own credit card. That was 3 years ago. And I still think about the moment everything changed. My name is not important. What matters is that for most of my adult life, I was the one who made things happen in my family. Not because anyone asked me to. Not because I was the oldest. My sister is 4 years older than me. I did it because I loved them, and because somewhere along the way, I became the person everyone assumed would handle it. I was 28 when I planned that trip. I had just gotten a promotion at work project coordinator at a mid-size logistics company in Charlotte. I was good at organizing things. I was good at seeing the full picture when everyone else only saw their own piece. My family knew this, and for a long time, I thought that was a compliment. The beach house idea started at Christmas dinner 2 years before the actual trip. My uncle made a joke about how we never all got together anymore. My mom sighed and said it would be so nice to do a big family vacation, just once, before everyone got too old or too busy. My aunt nodded. My cousin looked at her phone. No one said anything else about it. I went home that night and started a spreadsheet. I want you to understand what that spreadsheet looked like by the time I was done. 14 names. Dietary restrictions: my aunt doesn't eat shellfish. My uncle is borderline diabetic. My cousin's boyfriend at the time was lactose intolerant. 14 different driving distances to the Outer Banks. A shared grocery list broken into arrival day, midweek, and last day. A folder with the house manual, the parking instructions, the beach gear rental contact, the nearest urgent care, and the Wi-Fi password written in large font because my grandfather's eyesight wasn't great. I paid the deposit myself, $2,000, because the house required one to hold the booking and no one else had the card limit. I told myself I'd collect from everyone later. The months before the trip, I sent reminders. Friendly ones at first. I made a group chat. I called people individually. My sister told me I was being a little intense. My mom said she trusted me to handle it. My uncle said to just tell him what he owed and he'd Venmo me. My cousin said she might bring her new boyfriend and asked if there was room. There was room. I rearranged the sleeping assignments to make room. I also, quietly, did not collect from 3 people who I knew were going through hard times financially. I just absorbed those costs. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want anyone to feel embarrassed. That was $600 total that I never mentioned and never recovered. The week before we left, I drove 40 minutes to a warehouse store and bought enough food to stock the house for the first 2 days. I spent $312 and loaded it into my car alone. I made a checklist of what each person was supposed to bring. I followed up on that checklist twice. I also printed physical copies of the house rules and the daily schedule. I had made loose suggestions, not demands, just options, so that 14 people weren't standing in the kitchen every morning asking what we were doing today. I brought those printed sheets in a little folder. I think about that folder sometimes. How much hope I put into it. We arrived on a Saturday. The house was beautiful, 3 stories, a wraparound porch, direct beach access, a hot tub that took me 45 minutes to figure out how to turn on while everyone else unpacked. By the time I came back inside, my sister had claimed the largest bedroom for herself and her husband. She had also moved my bag to a smaller room on the 3rd floor. I didn't say anything. I carried my bag up the stairs. That first night, I cooked. Not because anyone asked me to. Because someone had to start dinner, and no one else was moving toward the kitchen, and there was $80 of groceries waiting on the counter. I made pasta with 2 different sauces, one with meat, one without garlic bread, and a salad. I stood at the stove for an hour and a half while I could hear everyone laughing on the porch. They came in when the food was ready. My uncle said it was great. My mom kissed my cheek. My cousin's boyfriend said he couldn't eat the pasta because of the butter in the sauce, even though lactose intolerance and dairy weren't the same thing, and there was no dairy in the sauce. But I didn't argue, so I made him a separate plate of plain pasta with olive oil. My sister ate quietly and then said, a little too casually, that the salad dressing was a bit much. I said, okay. Day 2, I organized the beach gear. Day 3, I handled the reservation at the seafood restaurant when the original time slot got pushed and I had to call twice and hold for 22 minutes to keep our table. Day 4, I noticed we were running low on coffee and paper towels and drove to the store by myself while everyone was still sleeping. That was the pattern. That had always been the pattern. And I want to be honest with you. I did not hate it. Not at first. I felt needed. I felt capable. I felt like the trip was going well because of me, and on some level, that was enough. But something shifted on day 5. It was a small thing. That is almost always how it starts. I had planned a sunset boat tour, a 2-hour excursion that I had booked 3 weeks in advance. It held 16 people, which meant there was exactly room for everyone. The departure time was 5:30, and I had told the group 3 times. Leave the house by 5, it's a 15-minute drive plus parking. At 4:55, my sister announced she needed to shower first. I said the boat left at 5:30. She said it would only take 10 minutes. It took 25. We left the house at 5:22. I was driving and I pushed the speed limit the entire way, found parking in 2 minutes because I had already looked up the lot. We actually ran to the dock, and we made it with 4 minutes to spare. No one said thank you. My sister said her sandals gave her a blister from rushing. I sat at the back of the boat and watched the sun go down over the water and felt something I had not felt before in this family. Not anger, something quieter, something more like clarity. I started paying attention differently after that. I noticed that no one had asked how I was doing this entire trip. Not once. Not a single question about my job, my life, my apartment, the guy I had been seeing who had broken up with me 2 weeks before we left, and whom I hadn't mentioned because I didn't want to bring down the mood. I noticed that my name came up mainly in the context of logistics. Can you check the checkout time? Did you bring extra sunscreen? What's the Wi-Fi password again? Yes, the one printed on the sheet I gave you on day 1. I noticed that at dinner on day 5, my sister made a comment about how next year she thought the family should do a cruise instead. She said it like planning this entire week from scratch had been nothing. Like the folder, the spreadsheet, the deposit, the grocery runs, the restaurant hold, the $600 I never collected, and the 4 minutes to spare on that dock, like none of it had left any kind of mark. I went to bed early that night and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Day 6 was the last full day. I had planned a bonfire on the beach for the evening. I had checked the local ordinances, gotten the permit, bought the wood and the s'mores ingredients. That afternoon, I was sitting on the porch reading when my sister came out and sat across from me. She had that look she sometimes gets, the one that means she is about to say something she has been thinking about for a while. She said, "Can I be honest with you?" I said, "Sure." She said, "I feel like this trip has been a little organized. Like, every day has a plan and a schedule and it's a lot. People just want to relax." I looked at her. She kept going. She said the boat thing stressed everyone out. She said the printed schedule was a bit much. She said that next time, and here she smiled, like this was friendly advice, maybe I should let things be more spontaneous. I asked her who would have booked the house if I hadn't. She said someone would have figured it out. I asked who would have paid the deposit. She said we all could have chipped in. I said 3 people still hadn't paid me back for their share. She said she didn't know anything about that. I said okay. That was the last real conversation we had on the trip. That night, the bonfire was beautiful. Everyone was happy. My grandfather made a toast and said this was the best family trip he could remember. My aunt cried a little. My cousin took about 40 photos. I sat by the fire and smiled and felt very far away from all of it. We checked out Sunday morning. I was the one who did the walkthrough. I was the one who found my cousin's boyfriend's sunglasses behind the couch. I was the one who turned in the key. On the drive home, alone in my car with 4 hours ahead of me, I made a decision. I didn't make it angrily. I didn't cry. I turned on a podcast about architecture, something I had been meaning to listen to, and I just let the thought settle in like something I had already known for a long time and was only now willing to say out loud. I was done. Not with my family. I want to be clear about that. I was not done with the people. I was done with the role. Done being the one who built the thing everyone else stood on and then told was a little too structured. The first few months, I don't think anyone noticed. I stopped initiating. I responded to messages, but didn't start them. When my mom mentioned at Thanksgiving that someone should really plan something for Grandpa's 80th birthday in the spring, I said that sounded like a lovely idea and passed the green beans. My sister looked at me. I smiled. In January, my cousin texted me asking if I was thinking about organizing anything for the summer. I said I wasn't. She asked why not. I said I had a lot going on. She said okay and didn't follow up. In February, my mom called and asked if I was all right. I said I was great. I told her about a ceramics class I had started taking on Wednesday nights. She said that sounded relaxing. I said it really was. She didn't ask about summer plans. In March, my sister called. I almost didn't answer. Not because I was angry, I want to keep saying that, because it's important, but because I knew what the call was probably about, and I wasn't sure I was ready to have that conversation with any kind of grace. I answered. She asked if I had talked to Mom about the birthday party for Grandpa. I said I hadn't planned anything, no. She said someone needed to, and did I have any ideas? I said I thought it would be really nice if she took the lead on it this year. I said I would be happy to help with anything she needed once she had a plan. There was a pause. She said she didn't really know how to start. I said, "You'll figure it out. You always said someone would." I did not say it meanly. My voice was even. I meant every word. Another pause. She said, "Okay." We talked for a few more minutes about nothing important, and then we hung up. I sat in my kitchen for a moment. Outside, it was March and gray and a little cold, and I had a mug of coffee going cold on the table. I wrapped both hands around it. I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Not satisfaction, exactly, more like alignment. Like the outside of my life was starting to match the inside. Grandpa's birthday party happened in April. My sister planned it. She booked a private room at his favorite Italian restaurant, organized a group gift, and sent everyone a time and address. It was simple and warm, and Grandpa loved it. She called me afterward, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Not bad exhaustion, the kind you feel after something goes well but took effort. She said, "That was so much work. How did you always do this stuff?" I said, "I just did it because I loved you all." She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "I'm sorry if we ever made it feel like nothing." That sentence landed differently than I expected. I didn't cry. I didn't give a speech. I just said, "Thank you for saying that." And I meant it. We are in a different place now, my family and I. I still show up. I still love them. I still bring a dish to every holiday and laugh too loud at my uncle's old jokes and sit next to my grandfather because his hearing is getting worse, and I've learned to speak up without making it obvious. But I don't carry the invisible weight anymore. And the strange thing, the thing I didn't expect, is that when I stopped carrying it, some of them started picking it up. Not all of them. Not perfectly. But enough. My ceramics class meets every Wednesday. I've made 4 bowls and one extremely lopsided vase that I think is kind of beautiful in an honest way. I am dating someone who, on our 3rd date, asked me what I like to do for fun, not what I was good at, not what I could help with, but what I actually enjoyed. I thought about that question longer than I should have. I'm learning to answer it faster. If you are listening to this and you recognize yourself in it, not necessarily the vacation, not the exact details, but the feeling of building things for people who walk into them without looking down. I want you to know something. Stopping doesn't make you selfish. Stopping makes you honest. You are not a logistics department. You are not a background character in your own family's story. You do not owe anyone a folder with printed instructions and a $2,000 deposit and $300 of groceries and the quiet covering of other people's costs. You owe them your love. That's real. But love is not the same as endless, unacknowledged labor. The day I drove home from the Outer Banks, I turned on that podcast and I didn't cry. I watched the highway stretch out ahead of me, and I thought, I have a whole life that belongs to me. I still have the parking permit from that beach. I kept it. Not as a reminder of what I lost. I didn't lose anything that was really mine. I kept it as a reminder of the moment I decided to stop building bridges for people who never once looked over the edge to see how deep the water was. I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. And this time when I say fine, I mean every syllable.